Riley walked through the busy market street. The city buzzed with noise, shouting traders, bright signs, hovercarts flying past. Humans, aliens, robots. Everyone moved quickly, chasing profit or survival. He had just sold some spare engine parts and was heading back to his small repair shop near the edge of the district. But something made him stop. A sound, a voice. Very soft, very weak. "Please, help me." Riley turned. At first, he saw nothing. Then he spotted her. An alien woman sat on the cold stone floor, leaning against the wall near the market gate. Her skin was pale blue, but dry and cracked. Her clothes were torn and too thin for the chilly wind. Her arms wrapped around something, a small bundle covered in cloth. Her eyes looked up at Riley. They were tired, hopeless, but still alive. "Please," she whispered again. "I haven't eaten in 15 days. Riley stared for a second. He had seen beggars before. The city was full of people who had nothing. But this was different. The woman didn't stretch out her hand. She didn't ask for money. She just held her child close and waited for the world to pass by, and most of it did. Aliens walked around her like she wasn't there. Some looked angry, some disgusted. No one stopped, until Riley did. He knelt down beside her. "What's your name?" he asked. The woman hesitated, then said, "Sana." Riley glanced at the bundle in her arms. "Is that your baby?" She nodded, gently pulling the cloth back. A small alien child, barely a year old, slept quietly, his tiny body thinner than it should be. "His name is Kale," she said softly. Riley opened his bag and took out a protein bar. He broke it in, half, and offered her a piece. Sana stared at it like it was gold. She didn't snatch it. She didn't rush. She broke it into smaller pieces and slowly ate, careful not to wake her son. After a few minutes, she looked up at Riley again, tears in her eyes. Thank you. Where are you from?" he asked. Sana looked away. "I ran. I had no choice. They took everything. My home, my name, my family. Then they tried to take him too." She looked down at her child. "I couldn't let them." Riley frowned. "Who tried to take him?" Sana lowered her head. "I can't say. If they hear I spoke, they'll come." Riley stood up and looked around. Some traders were watching now. Not kindly. He heard one of them mutter, "Let her rot. Filthy runaways belong in the cages." Riley turned to them. "Say that again," he said, his voice firm. The trader looked away. Riley looked down at Sana. "Can you walk?" She nodded slowly. "Barely." He reached out a hand. "Come with me." Sana hesitated. "Why?" Riley answered simply. "Because no one else did." With effort, she stood. Her legs shook. Her arms stayed wrapped around her son. Riley helped her walk through the busy market streets. People stared. Some laughed. Some spat. But Riley didn't stop. He led her out of the market, through the junkyards, to a small building made of rusted metal and spare ship parts, his home, his repair shop. Inside, it was warm, simple, safe. Riley gave her a blanket, some water, and more food. She ate slowly, her eyes always checking on Kale. Later, as the child finally opened his eyes and looked around, Sana smiled for the first time. Riley watched them both. Something inside him shifted. He didn't know who had hurt her. He didn't know why she ran, but he knew one thing for sure. She didn't deserve to suffer. Not like this. Outside the shop, two men in dark jackets stood at the corner. One of them whispered into a small device. "We found her. The runaway and the child. A human has them now." The sun was setting, casting a red glow over the scrapyard. Broken metal pieces, burned ships, and rusted robot arms stretched across the land like the bones of dead machines. Riley's workshop stood at the edge, small, quiet, forgotten by most. He liked it that way, but today it wasn't just a place for fixing things. It had become a place of safety. Sana sat on the old couch near the wall, wrapped in a patched blanket. Her arms stayed around her child, Kyle, who slept peacefully now. For the first time in days, his face looked calm. Riley worked silently at the counter. He was fixing a damaged heater core, but his eyes kept drifting to the window. He had a strange feeling, like they were being watched. He walked over and checked the security screen. No movement. No signals. Still, something felt wrong. He glanced back at Sana. She looked better after food and rest, but there was still fear in her eyes, the kind of fear that doesn't leave easily. "Is someone chasing you?" he asked. Sana didn't speak for a long time. Then very softly she said, "Yes." Riley pulled up a chair. "Who?" She hesitated, then finally whispered, "They call themselves the Collectors." Riley frowned. He had heard that name before. Rumors, stories, slavers who hunted weak alien mothers with newborns, babies sold for experiments or worse. Sana continued, "I was working in one of their farms. They never let us speak. We were numbers. When I gave birth, they told me he wasn't mine." Her arms tightened around Kale. "So I ran." Riley was silent for a moment. Then he asked, "Do you have any family?" Sana shook her head. "They're gone. I don't even know if my homeworld exists anymore." Riley nodded slowly. "You do now," he said. She looked at him, confused. He pointed around the room. "This is your home now. As long as I breathe, no one's taking your child." Sana's eyes filled with tears. That night, Riley made space for them in the back room. He gave her clean clothes, simple food, and even an old stuffed alien toy someone had left behind. Kale clutched it and smiled in his sleep. It broke Riley's heart. But across the scrapyard, in the shadows, something moved. Two dark figures stood near a rusted wall, watching. They wore black jackets. One held a small tracker device. It blinked softly. "She's here," the first man said. The second one grinned. "Should we call the ship?" "Not yet," the first replied. "Let's see if the human's really that brave." Morning came. Riley was outside fixing a fuel tank when the two men walked up. Their smiles were fake, their eyes sharp. "Morning," one said casually. "Nice little place you've got here." Riley didn't stop working. "Can I help you?" The second man stepped forward. "We're looking for someone. A lost worker. She ran away from her job." Riley straightened slowly. "She's not here." The man tilted his head. "Are you sure?" "She's blue-skinned, thin, with a child. Last seen near the market gate." Riley said nothing, then added, "You have any proof she's a runaway?" The man's smile vanished. "She belongs to us." Riley's voice turned cold. "No one belongs to anyone." The two men exchanged a look. The taller one leaned in and whispered, "You don't know what you're getting into. Walk away, human, before it's too late." Riley met his eyes. "I don't walk away." After they left, Riley locked every door. He sealed the windows, then sat down with Sana. "They came," he said. She nodded. "I knew they would." He looked at her, serious. "We can't stay here long, they'll return with more." Sana looked at her baby. "Then we run again?" Riley shook his head. "No, not this time. I know a place. Far from here. A human colony that protects people like you." Sana looked unsure. "Can we trust them?" Riley nodded. "They helped me once when I had no one. They'll help you too." Outside, the wind blew across the scrap piles, and deep in the shadows the Collectors began to plan. This time, they wouldn't knock. The workshop lights buzzed softly. Sana sat at the edge of the cot, her baby sleeping beside her, wrapped in warm cloth. Riley poured 2 cups of hot root tea and handed one to her. She took it with both hands. Warmth spread through her fingers, but her eyes were far away. Haunted. "You don't have to tell me anything," Riley said gently. But Sana looked at him. She had seen humans lie before. use others, hurt others. But Riley, he had shared food, space, safety, and silence. No one had ever given her that. She took a slow breath, then spoke. I was sold when I was 15. Riley froze. She continued. My planet was attacked, not by soldiers, by traitors. They offered help, food, but they tricked us. Our leaders took the deal, and the young girls were taken in return. Her voice cracked. I worked in a factory on a mining moon, cleaned machines, slept on metal floors. No names, just numbers. Riley gripped his cup tighter. He didn't interrupt. He just listened. They gave us pills to stop us from crying. Another kind to keep us working. When someone got too weak, they were thrown out like trash. Sena's hands shook. One day I found out I was pregnant. A supervisor saw my stomach and tried to take me to the med bay. Riley looked at her sharply. They wanted to take the baby? Sena nodded. Not to help. To sell. She wiped her face quickly. I escaped during a power failure, hid in garbage ships, slept in vents. I ate mold and dirt just to stay alive. Her eyes met his. I wasn't running for myself. I was running for Kale. She touched her sleeping child's face. They want him, not me. My kind can bond with others without using words. They think Kale can be trained, used as a tool. Riley stood up and paced the room. His jaw was tight, his heart burned. They treat people like machines, he said. Sena nodded slowly. To them, we are things. Outside, the scrapyard was quiet, but Riley didn't trust the silence. He turned on his old scanner device. The screen blinked. Red dots, movement, 2, 3, maybe more. Trouble, he whispered. He turned to Sena. We have to leave. Tonight. She didn't argue. She was ready. Always ready. But this time, she wasn't alone. They packed quickly. Food, batteries, Riley's old tools. He gave Kyle a small toy, a blinking bug bot that chirped when shaken. The baby smiled. Sena kissed Riley's hand. You should have walked away, Riley replied. I did. I walked away from everything. Until I met you. They crept out of the workshop through the back tunnel. Riley had built the tunnel years ago in case of police raids. Tonight it was a lifeline. They moved past the scrap towers and burning barrels. The cold air bit at their faces. But they didn't stop, not even when they heard footsteps behind them. Suddenly, a voice echoed. There they are. Flashlights beamed across the yard. Riley grabbed Sena's arm. Run! They ran between piles of broken droids, ducked under sparking cables. Shots fired. Metal sparked beside them. Sena clutched Kyle tighter, shielding his head. Riley turned and threw an old fuel cell. Boom. A loud blast lit up the night, slowing. They're chasers, but more were coming. Finally, they reached Riley's old hoverbike hidden under a tarp. He pulled it out, jumped on, and helped Sena climb behind him. Hold on, he shouted. The bike roared to life. They sped off into the darkness, leaving behind the city, the chains, the fear, but not the danger, because the collectors never gave up. High above, in a hidden ship, a voice hissed into a speaker. The asset has escaped with the human. Send word to the others. They are not to survive. The wind howled across the old desert plain. Sand blew across the rocks like whispers in the night. Riley's hoverbike slowed as they reached a hidden cave nestled between the cliffs. It was small, dark, and silent, but for now it was safe. Inside, Sena lay Kale down on a warm blanket. The baby was exhausted but safe. She sat beside him, her eyes on the cave mouth, her hands never far from him. Riley placed a small heat lamp near them, then walked outside to keep watch. He hadn't slept in over a day, but his mind refused to rest. He knew the type of men chasing them. They didn't stop, they didn't forget, and now they were hunting in packs. Suddenly his comm beacon blinked, signal nearby. Riley narrowed his eyes. Already? He rushed back inside and whispered, We're not alone. Sena stiffened. Riley picked up his blaster. He was about to head out when a voice spoke from the shadows. "No need for weapons, human." A tall alien figure stepped into the cave entrance. Black coat, dark gray skin, eyes like glass. He walked with quiet steps, like a ghost, but everything about him screamed danger. Kale whimpered in his sleep. Sana grabbed him instantly. Her voice shook. "Karen." Riley stood between them. "You know him?" Sana nodded, breathing heavily. "He was my handler, before I escaped." Karen bowed slightly. "I'm pleased you remember. That means I trained you well." He turned to Riley. "You must be the human, the mechanic who thinks he's a hero." Riley raised his blaster. "Leave, now." Karen smiled, calmly. "I came to talk, that's all." He sat down on a stone like he was visiting an old friend. "I have a deal," he said. "One you should hear." Riley didn't lower his weapon. "Talk fast." Karen's eyes glowed faintly. "We don't want you, or the child. We just want Sana. She's not important to you, but she is to us." Riley snapped. "She's not going anywhere." Karen tilted his head. "What if I told you she's the key to a powerful genetic link? That her voice can unlock minds, control memory? That's not science fiction. That's her bloodline." Sana shook her head. "Lies." "But part of her feared it wasn't," Karen continued. "You keep her and you'll bring death to everyone around you. You give her to me and we walk away." He looked at Riley. "Be smart. She's not worth a war." Riley stepped forward, eyes hard, voice cold. "She's worth everything to me." Karen's smile faded. "I was hoping you'd be reasonable," Riley replied. "You found the wrong human." Karen stood slowly. He walked toward the exit, pausing for one final look, then said softly, "You'll wish you took the deal." As soon as he left, Riley activated a jammer device. "No more signals," he said. "They'll have to find us the old way." Sana sat down beside the fire. Her hands were shaking. "That was my nightmare," she whispered. "He used to watch us like animals. He said we weren't people." Riley looked at her gently. "You are." She looked up at him, tears in her eyes. "You don't even know what I am." "I know you're a mother," he said. "That's enough." That night, Riley didn't sleep. He kept guard while Sana and Kyle rested. Every sound outside felt louder. Every flicker in the cave wall felt like danger. But he stood firm, because some things are worth protecting, even if the whole galaxy says otherwise. At sunrise, Sana touched his shoulder. "You should sleep." Riley smiled weakly. "I'll sleep when this ends." She looked at him. "I don't deserve your kindness," he answered. "You don't have to. You just deserve safety." And somewhere far above, on a silent ship in orbit, Karen gave his order. "Burn the desert, kill the human, bring the girl and child alive." Because now it wasn't a deal, it was war. The desert wind carried heat and ash. Riley smelled smoke before he saw it. He climbed to the edge of the ridge, eyes narrowing as flames danced in the distance, too far for an accident, too close to be safe. The fire was no mistake. They were flushing them out. Back in the cave, Sana gently rocked Kale in her arms. She looked at Riley as he returned, his face dark with worry. "They're burning the way in," he said. She stood quickly. "We have to leave now." Riley shook his head. "They want that to push us into the open." He looked around the small cave, thinking fast. "Then we don't run," he said. "We fight." He ran to the stash pile in the corner. Old mining. Charges, broken parts, gas canisters. Junk to most people. But to a mechanic like Riley, it was a trap waiting to be built. Sana's voice shook. "There's too many of them. You can't stop them all." Riley smiled slightly as he connected. Wires, not trying to, just buying time. 30 minutes later, the cave entrance was rigged. Tripwires, flash bombs, pressure plates. If they stepped wrong, they'd light up the desert like a sun. Sana held Kale close, whispering to him in a soft alien language. The baby blinked up at her, unaware of the danger, Riley handed her a small pack. Go through the tunnel I showed you earlier. It leads north. What about you? She asked. I'll follow after I slow them down. She hesitated, then pressed her forehead gently to his. Be safe, human. Riley nodded. Always. 10 minutes passed. Then the first boots stepped into the cave. They moved silently. Dark uniforms, glowing eyes, shock sticks ready. But they didn't see the wire. Snap. Boom. A blinding light exploded, followed by smoke and heat. Screams echoed. One attacker stumbled back, clothes on fire. Another dropped from the flashbang, clutching his ears. Riley stepped out of the shadows with a torch in one hand and a welding gun in the other. This is my home, he growled. You're not welcome. He hit a button on his belt. Boom! A hidden mine went off behind them, sealing the entrance. Panic spread through the remaining attackers. Riley ducked behind a stone ledge and fired his tool gun, melting one of their weapons. Then silence. Too quiet. Suddenly, Karen's voice cut through the cave. Impressive, human. Riley turned fast. Karen stood at the far wall, untouched by flames. How did you? Riley began. There's always another way in, Karen said. We built this cave, remember? He raised a strange weapon, something sharp, thin, glowing blue. You've fought well, but this ends now. Riley raised his gun. It was empty. Karen smiled. Any last words? Riley grinned. Yeah. He hit the last trigger. A wall behind Karen burst open. Rocks fell. Karen dodged, but too slow. His weapon was crushed. His leg, pinned. Riley rushed past him, slipping into the tunnel he made for Sina. Outside, in the cold night air, Sina turned when she heard the blast. Riley, she whispered. Suddenly, he appeared from the exit, coughing and covered in soot. She ran to him, hugging him tightly. He looked at her and the baby. They'll keep coming, he said. Then we keep moving, she answered. In the distance, the flames lit up the desert sky like a warning. But for the first time, Riley didn't feel fear. He felt something stronger. Purpose. Above them, Karen lay under the rocks. Alive. Barely, and full of rage. He whispered into his cracked calm. They won't escape me again. The desert behind them faded into night. Riley's hoverbike rode steady across old steel tracks hidden under the sand. Sena sat behind him, holding Kyle tightly as he slept against her chest. They had left behind fire and death. But ahead lay mystery. There's a place, Riley said over the wind. A colony hidden in the cliffs. It's not on any map. Sena looked confused. Why would a human colony stay hidden? Riley answered quietly. Because it protects the ones the rest of the galaxy forgot. By sunrise, they arrived. The cliffs rose high, their walls rough and full of shadows. Riley parked the bike near a broken statue, half buried, shaped like a woman holding a child. He pressed his hand to the base. A scanner beeped. The cliffside cracked open, revealing a hidden metal gate. It opened slowly. Inside was a valley. Green, quiet, alive. Alien children ran between huts made of glass and old ship parts. Mothers of all kinds watched them, some with feathers, some with scales, and some with soft blue skin like Sena. Sena's eyes widened. This is real? Riley smiled. Yes, it's called Haven. An older human woman approached. Her skin was weathered, her hair silver, her eyes kind. Riley, she said warmly, you brought someone. This is Sena, he said, and Kale. The woman nodded and touched Sena's hand gently. You're safe here for now. They were taken to a room with soft beds and warm light. Kyle played with a cloth ball as Sena stared at the walls. On them were names, dozens, hundreds. Next to each name, a tiny handprint, alien handprints. Some small, some faded, some with no name beside them. What is this? Sena whispered. Riley stood beside her. This is the wall of silent children, he said. It's for those who were rescued, and for those who weren't. Sena's breath caught. She stepped closer. Her fingers hovered over a small handprint. The shape, the curve. It matched Kale's. Exactly. That's impossible, she whispered. How could his print be here? Riley looked shocked. He rushed out and returned with the elder woman. The woman's eyes narrowed as she examined the mark. That print was made a year ago, she said softly. Sena's voice shook. He's not even a year old yet. The woman took them deeper into the colony, to a chamber filled with data crystals. She pulled one out and showed a projection. A file appeared. Sena's planet, her people, a baby. Not Kale, but another child. Identical. They've done this before, the woman said grimly. The collectors don't just take children, they make copies, clones. They use genetic bonding traits from mothers like you. Sena collapsed to her knees. Then, Kyle. The woman gently knelt beside her. Kyle is real. He's yours. But others might not be. Riley stepped back, shaken. How long has this been happening? The woman looked tired. Decades, maybe longer. The galaxy turns its head. Too many think these children are just property. She looked at Sena. But mothers like you? You remember. You fight. You keep love alive. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the chamber. A voice echoed through the speakers. Unmarked ship approaching, cloaked, breaking into atmosphere. Riley grabbed his tool belt. They found us. Sena stood, her arms firm around Kale. No more running, she said. Riley nodded. Then let's make our stand right here. Far above, Karen sat inside a stealth ship. His wounds had healed. His rage had not. He stared at the screen. At Sena. At Kale. He smiled coldly. They built a wall for children. I'll tear it down. The sky cracked open with light. Karen's black ship pierced through the clouds like a falling blade, silent and fast. No warning. No mercy. Inside Haven, children were rushed underground. Mothers held their little ones tight. The air was filled with whispers, prayers, and fear. But one man stood tall at the gate, Riley dust on his coat, grease on his hands. A hammer in one, a shield in the other. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't trained for war, but he had something more dangerous than any weapon, a promise. Sena stood beside him, Kyle wrapped against her chest. You don't have to do this, she said softly. Riley didn't look at her. His eyes were locked on the sky. I know, he replied. Then why? Because no one else ever stood for you. It's time someone did. The ship landed hard. The doors opened. Karen stepped out, his coat trailing smoke. He was followed by armored collectors, silent, cold, deadly. He raised a megaphone. Sena, surrender now, give us the child, or we take the entire colony. His voice echoed. No one moved. Then Riley stepped forward. I have something for you. He held up a small glowing device. Karen narrowed his eyes. What is that? Riley smiled. Your tracker. He crushed it under his boot. Crunch. Silence. Then Riley shouted, voice full of fire. You're not taking anyone. The collectors opened fire. But they didn't expect what came next. Haven's hidden turrets shot back with precision. Blasts of energy rained from the cliffs. Smoke filled the air. Riley ran into the chaos, slamming one collector with his shield. Another tried to grab him. He knocked the weapon aside with a wrench swing. He moved like a wild storm. Not perfect. Not smooth. But unstoppable. Charon pushed forward, cutting down the defense systems with sharp energy strikes. He reached Sena. She stood between him and Kale. No, she said firmly. Charon growled. I gave you a chance. You were made to be controlled. Sena stepped closer. I was made to protect. She raised a blaster Riley had given her. She fired. The shot hit Karen's shoulder. He staggered back. Before he could strike, Riley charged from the side. Both men crashed to the ground. They fought in the dust and heat, hammer versus blade. Karen struck Riley across the ribs, cutting deep. Riley cried out but didn't fall. He grabbed Karen's weapon and jammed it into the ground. "I told you," he gasped. "You won't win." With one last move, Riley triggered the self-defense core in his belt. A powerful pulse burst out. Karen was thrown back, his blade cracked in half. He tried to stand. Too late. The other Haven defenders closed in. Blasters. Raised Karen looked at Sena one last time. "This isn't over," she replied coldly. "Yes, it is. The battle ended, the sky cleared, and for the first time—" Kale laughed. Days later, a wall was rebuilt. More handprints were added. This time, 3 new ones. 1 tiny, 1 blue, and 1 human. Sena stood beside Riley, her hand in his. The elder woman of Haven smiled. "You've given him more than safety," she said to Riley. "You've given him a future." Riley looked at Kale, who played in the grass nearby. "I just did what anyone should have done," Sena whispered. "But no one ever did. Until you." Above Haven, stars filled the sky. Peaceful, bright, and, somewhere in the quiet dark, a child slept in his mother's arms, safe, loved home.